I got it by calling a women's game. Paul Romanuk, I was at TSN. Paul Romanuk got sick, and I got a call at the last minute. I was still living in Vancouver, and they
Right.
said, "Listen, there's a CIS women's national championship game next week in Calgary. Can you do it? Work with Cassie?" And the answer when you get a call like that is yes, yes, I can, sure. So I scrambled and around, and by then I'd started doing small events for TSN, a lot of Hockey Canada stuff, a lot of Royal Bank Cups and Telus
Right.
Cups, and they do a lot of that stuff, and that was my training ground.
Yeah. Got to
So
get your
I do
feet
this
wet, right?
game. I'm sorry.
Got to get your feet wet.
Yeah, for sure. So and this story relates to that. So we go and do this game at the speed skating oval in Calgary. There is nobody there. Like I'm talking nobody except for the people on the benches. And the game was terrible. It was, and Cassie will admit this, even women in the game will probably admit this. It was a 1-0 game in overtime. Kim St. Pierre was playing for McGill, so she wasn't allowing any goals.
Right.
And nobody, I believe it was U of T against them. And anyway, we call the game, and then fast forward a year later, TSN lands national rights. And now I'm living in Toronto. And now we're all excited because, hey, the NHL is coming back to TSN. And we all wondered, would I have a role in this and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And my phone rings, and it's my boss, Rick Chisholm, saying, come on in. We'd like to talk to you about your upcoming role in the NHL. And I'm like, wow, great. This is pretty cool. I can't imagine what it is. And I go in and I sit down and I said, Dave, listen, Gord Miller is going to be our lead play-by-play voice, but we've got about 60 games and 25 games. You're going to be calling them. And I was floored. I'm going to the NHL all of a sudden. I had no experience. I'd never called an NHL game.
Wow.
And I was thrilled. And as I'm walking out, I said, guys, I got to ask, I'm going to do the best I can here. And I'm going to make you always look back at this as a good decision. But I've got to ask, what made you think I could do NHL? And Rick Briggs-Jude spoke up and said, remember that game I called you about like a year ago, that women's game? You had to replace Romanuk on short notice? And I said, yeah, I remember that. He says, well, that game was terrible. And I said, yeah, I seem to remember that. He goes, well, you made it sound pretty good. And if you can make that game sound interesting and exciting, then you can call an NHL game. And I've never forgot that story and that lesson, because that ultimately led to me living in Florida now as the voice of the Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning and everything that in between, because you never know who's watching. You never know who's listening. You never know who's paying attention.